Hey everybody, I'm Ben. I'm a member of the APDT Board of Directors. I am a certified professional dog trainer through the CCPDT and a certified dog behavior consultant through the IAABC. Um, I have a bachelor's in biology and psychology, and I own and operate Good Doggy Saratoga out of Saratoga County, New York. Today, I want to spend some time talking about getting new dogs during social isolation of COVID-19. So, without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. If at any time you have any questions, just drop it in the comments and I'll try to handle those as we go. I'd be happy to talk to you about any of those. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is puppies. Uh, and I want to talk about the time aspect of puppies. So, um, not to say silver linings, but one of the things about having a bunch of time staying at home is that you can spend the proper amount of time necessary to properly introduce your puppy to your home, which ties into another aspect that I want to talk about at kind of the same time as this, and that's the right reasons to get a new dog, whether it's a puppy or another dog at all. Um, Now, if you've been on the fence, if you know you're one of those person you've been thinking about getting a dog or getting a puppy for months now, and you're like, oh, it kind of stinks. I can't go to work. I can't go out as much, but at least I have the time now that I could get a dog that I didn't have before. That might be a good reason, so long as you know that you're going to be able to continue the time commitment when we get to the other side of this. Now, if you're just like, oh, I'm furloughed and I'm lonely and I'm at home, that's probably not a really good reason to get a dog. There's there's always a bunch of good and bad reasons to get a dog. And as a matter of fact, the APDT has a resource on good and bad reasons to get a dog. I'm just kind of adding, in the COVID-19 specific time frame, don't get one just because you're lonely. Get one because you realize you have some time now that you didn't have before, and it's something you've been meaning to do. So here's a link to that resource that I'm putting in the comments as well. Um, so there's been, I'm going to kind of quote or paraphrase Dr. Ian Dunbar on this one, and he recommends, get your puppy when they're 8 weeks old. And the ideal that he's put out in a couple different places has been to aim for being able to spend the first 2 months with your puppy. Now, honestly, we all know that people that get puppies don't always spend the first 2 months completely home from work, just getting their new puppy. That's the ideal. But, if you find yourself in a situation now where you have that kind of time, you might be able to get closer to that ideal than otherwise. Um, a lot of that applies to both puppies and to new dogs. But there's a unique issue that comes up with getting a puppy during social isolation, which is socializing your puppy. I mean, we've all heard how important that is. Um, and, the socialization period lasts until about 16 weeks. But so to clarify, when I talk about socialization here, I'm specifically talking about during that socialization period and not exposing your dog to new things after that age, which is still important, but it's kind of a different thing. Um, so when you have a new puppy under 16 weeks, the idea is that you want to expose them to as many of the life events that they're going to be having as an adult and make those things good. Now, a personal philosophy that I hold in socialization is that it's not necessarily about going out and having a bunch of new people pet your dog and give them treats. It's about being around whatever situations they're going to find themselves in. If you're the kind of person that likes to be around a bunch of people, then yeah, you might want to go places where you can be around a bunch of people. But maybe, and it's okay if they pet them and give them treats, but ideally, I always tell people aim for you being the one that gives them the treats. The kind of communication that you're trying to get across to your new puppy is, when we go to a place like this, it's safe and I've got good stuff for you. So no matter where we go, aren't I so cool to pay attention to because I've got all the good stuff? Um, Now, obviously, with all of us going out a lot less, it can be very difficult to try to get ideas about, well, how can you socialize it? But if you keep that in mind about, well, kind of the things that you normally like to do, depending on where you live and what's going on around you, you might be able to do some of them. One of the most important things is, in my opinion, getting them to where they'll go to the vet happily. And I'm sure that if you contact your vet and tell them that you've got a new dog, uh, communicate with them that you're trying to get them to make sure that they're not afraid of the vet as they get older, and you're kind of doing whatever socialization is possible during these times, they can usually work with you. Um, they'll tell you what their protocols are because each vet might be different. And they may or may not have the time. But if they have the time and you can maybe drop your dog off and they can spend 5 minutes inside, meet each of the staff members, get some treats, and then get brought back out to you safely, that can be a good idea. Also, again, depending on where you live, like this is probably bad advice if you live in New York City, but if you live somewhere more rural, like I do, and you can get to a park and they're not closed. Again, it's not closed and it's safe to do. Um, you can take your dog to places like the park and let them see whoever else might be around and get those same ideas, those treats for you as well. Last thing, or not last thing, the next thing I want to talk about is supplies that you're going to need when you get your new dog. I'm going to again link to an APDT resource on general supplies, a checklist for new dogs, but especially for new puppies. If you're going to crate train, you're obviously going to want to have a crate. If you're going to be using baby gates to establish your isolation area, you're going to want to get those baby gates. If you're using potty pads in your isolation area during potty training, make sure you have those on hand. You're obviously going to want a water bowl, a food dish if you're feeding out of a dish, or a food dispenser if you're going for to get like a Kong wobbler or a snuffle mat, something like that for dogs, just to add some easy enrichment, especially since we can't get them out now as much as we might like to. Obviously, some quality dog food. And especially for new puppies, toys. Oh my God, toys. I don't feel like you can get enough toys. Um, I've never visited a client's house and been like, you have too many dog toys. I've literally never once said that. So, mix and match types, mix and match varieties. We're looking for that same sort of enrichment experience that we can give them. And then this is the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and unless we see any questions that people ask in the comments, but the last thing I want to talk about is separation anxiety and the possible prevention of it. And the first part goes back to what I was talking about with the time spent with the puppy. So if you do get a new puppy and they're under 16 weeks, I recommend it's okay. Spend as much time as you want with them. You don't have to worry about trying to sensitize or desensitize them to your absence just yet. That's something that's typically done. It's better to do with older dogs. And the reason for that is that during that socialization period, they're actually more likely to be sensitized to the isolation experience. There's been a few different studies on that, and if you're curious about that, maybe send me a message in Facebook, and I can provide some references. But general idea being that under 16 weeks, it's okay to spend pretty much as much time as you have with them, and after 16 weeks, that's when, if you haven't yet, you can start gradually desensitizing them to your absence, so that when you are able to rejoin the world as normal, that they're not suffering because of that. The idea is, if you're not having a problem already, then just start small. Leave for 5 minutes, go walk down to the end of the block or something, go get your mail if that's a trek for you. Again, assuming that it's safe for you to do so. And then when they're able to if you know that they're handling that really well, then you can slowly start to extend that. Go do things like, go get groceries, or just go and sit in a park by yourself or something, just to let them have a little bit of time without you there. You don't need to overdo it. I would say aim for between 20 minutes and an hour on any given day, and you don't even have to do it every single day to get them to where they're kind of okay with being left alone. Now, if you are seeing problems and you're having issues with separation anxiety, obviously get in touch with a trainer who's qualified to help you with that. This isn't really the place to talk about treating it, but again, with some extra time off that you might have, this is a time that you might be able to use to prevent some of that. Okay, so that is about all I had planned to talk about. And I'll give a few seconds to see if anyone jumps in with questions in the comments. And if not, I will end going live. Uh, I will close out and say that I am willing to talk about any of this or any other topics with anybody that wants to know about this. Just shoot me a message or post it on my actual page. That's Benjamin A. Bennick. And all right, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Stay healthy, stay safe.